Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Beyond the Closeout Binder, Turning Commissioning Data into Action in Facilities. I'm Jennifer Getz, the Editorial Director of Facility Executive Magazine, and this webinar is presented by ARC Facilities. David, thank you so much for joining us today.
Jennifer, thank you so much, and thank you for the kind words, and also everybody, welcome to the webinar here. And I'm really excited to talk about this. I've been traveling around the country for years, and one of the things that keeps coming up is several disconnects when it comes to design, construction, commissioning, and then pass over to facilities. We're going to dive into what some of that really looks like, what I'm hearing in the field, and the way that organizations are really tackling that. We're going to start with what is commissioning, and I call it the 4 W's, and we'll jump into that in a second. But also the risk of not including commissioning in those projects, those ground up buildings that you're doing. What's the challenge, and what are those risks if you don't do that? And also the importance of facilities having a seat at the table on all projects. And I cannot stress that enough, all projects. And the importance of mapping critical building information during construction so that the team literally hits the ground running. And then it's really about setting your teams up for that long-term success. So let's jump in. So let's start with the basics. What is commissioning? So I call this, again, the 4 W's. It's the what, okay? Commissioning is a quality-focused process. It's basically you hire a third-party org to come in and thoroughly test your building, that make sure that everything is up to the standards that are specified from the get-go. Meaning they come in during design phase, they come in through the construction phase and through the closeout phase, and they manage and really are your extra sets of eyes and ears on that project. But the who is, again, it's that third party org that is hired by the owner, and they act as your representative to really make sure that everything is functioning the way it's supposed to be, independent of the GC, independent of the architect. So they are, again, your extra set of eyes and ears that work with your teams, work with the GC, work with your individual teams, and also can work with your facilities team. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But they're independent. And it's really to help you make sure you're getting what you're paying for and that it's functioning properly. And the when is, I recommend, and I've heard this, that commissioning agents will come in at different phases. You got to look at it, and I've heard the most successful orgs are the ones that look at it from the very beginning, design phase. When you're talking about it from a conceptual standpoint, bringing a commissioning agent in to work with those different teams, your architect, your GC that you've selected, working with them hand in hand to understand what the specs are for this building, what your expectation is, so you really establish that plan. And it's to ensure that that process continues through construction, through the system startups, through testing all of those different systems, all those pieces of equipment. And also that project closeout is then contains all of that information of what they found, okay? But the why is it catches stuff, meaning they are, since they are your extra set of eyes and ears, independent of those people that you've hired from the GC, from the architect standpoint, or the engineering firm. They're those people that can throw up the red flags when they find something that's not up to that spec or something that's not functioning properly. Their goal is to optimize performance. Also look at energy, look at safety, look at the occupant comfort. That is their job. And they're going to be, again, that extra set of eyes and ears for you and your team. But it's to ensure that all of this stuff is turned over to you in a timely manner, but more importantly, that everybody's up to speed and can be properly trained. So here's a true story of what that can look like if you don't have commissioning. Okay, I talked to a hospital about this very thing a couple weeks ago, and brand new hospital tower project. No commissioning was included in this project. Okay, 2 pumps were installed that were too big, not enough water flow coming through this thing. Right? First pump burned out in 45 days after they got the keys. Okay. Replacement pump ordered by the contractor. It was under warranty, 3-month delivery time from the time they placed the order to get the pump Okay, so now they're running off the other pump. Installs not covered by the warranty. Every time they installed one of these things, okay, it was $10,000 for just the install, right? The second pump, which they were using as their backup, burned up 20 days after the first one burned up. Think about that. Two pumps failed inside of 65 days, okay, after they got the keys handed to them. Okay, to date, they've replaced both of those pumps 4 times. 4 times. $10,000 an install for each pump. Think about that. That's not covered by the warranty. It's currently in legal review. I can't wait to hear how that turns out. This is the problem, though. Commissioning could have caught that. They would have seen, wait a minute, these things are not functioning properly. These things are overheating. Okay. All of those things, that extra set of eyes and ears during that construction phase really would have caught some of these potential things. That's their job, right? And they're going to be testing this stuff to make sure that it's all functioning properly. So the risk of not doing that is without commissioning, and buildings often experience system inefficiencies, equipment failures. I just showed one. And increased energy and maintenance costs. Again, critical systems may not operate as they were designed. Okay. They're not designed to do that. The challenge is you got to make sure everything that you put in your specs is up to where those standards are supposed to be. But also it can lead to safety issues, complaints, and also premature equipment wear. Again, big challenges. So this is an example of what that checklist traditionally looks like. And different commissioning agents will have different types of checklists, but this is an example of some of the things that they actually are capturing. Now, again, if you have a commissioning agent that you're working with, or you're looking for commissioning agents to work on a project with you, ask them what their checklist includes. Have them send this, but also really detail out when they come in and what their processes are through the entire construction phase to closeout. Okay. And some of them also have some ongoing where they will also work with you and come back after the closeout is done. And after you've got the keys to the building, they will actually come back and double check things too. Different agencies have different standards that they actually include in theirs. But make sure no matter what, it's extremely thorough, because it's going to do nothing but help you long term. Here's the challenge, though. There's a disconnect still between construction, commissioning, and facilities. And what it really comes down to is time. There's a huge gap, and I see this all the time. Now, it's project to project, don't get me wrong, but I've heard everything from 3 months to 18 months in most cases to get the closeout package. What that means is your team is operating blind, right? You don't have all the information for the building. So here's that disconnect. Construction's working on current as-built. They're relying on those drawings, current drawings. They're seeing all of that stuff live during the construction phase. Okay. Commissioning, again, it's that extra set of eyes and ears, but here, and they're checking against the specs, and they're checking functionality of all the different devices. But here's the problem. Now you're done, you got that closeout, okay, or the building's been closed out, they hand you the keys, but that doesn't mean you got all the supporting stuff for it. I'm waiting on drawings, I'm waiting on manuals, I'm waiting on warranty information. So what happens is the disconnect is, in many cases, I see this where organizations, they get the keys to the building, and again, they have no supporting documentation to say where anything is. They don't know where, they don't get drawing sets. They don't get any of the MEP sets. They don't get any of the specs on the equipment. They have no locations of where stuff is. So again, it's a big time thing. You're going to hear me say the word time a lot because it's real. I hear this over and over and over again. Over the last few years, I've been talking to people about commissioning and also the construction process. And the challenge is time from when you close out the building to the time you get the stuff that's associated with what's installed in the building, all the information about the building. Time's not our friend in facilities. Something breaks, we got to fix it. And what often times happens is they start hunting. They start ripping stuff open. They start popping ceiling tiles, trying to find it. It's not efficient. It's a waste of time. So facilities needs a seat at the table on all projects. I mentioned this at the very beginning. You should be involved from day one on those active construction projects, even in design phase. You're going to see stuff and hear things that are going to jump right up to you and your team that are going to be red flags. You're installing this too close to this, or you know what, I don't have the ceiling clearance to put that or to manage that, or you know what, you've got a copper line that's running right there and I can't even open the door. And I'll show you what that looks like on an HVAC unit to service that unit. That's the stuff that facility sees immediately. Okay, when I do site walks with people, I'm constantly hearing those kinds of nightmares. Oh, you know what? They installed it too close to the wall. After they give us the keys, we're actually gonna have to cut a whole access point, a hole in the wall up in the grid to be able to access that. All of that could have been caught, right? If facilities had that seat at the table. Also working directly with the commissioning agent to point that kind of stuff out. Saves you a lot of headache when you've got to maintain that building moving forward. But why facilities teams should be involved in all those new construction projects is you're going to see all of those insights up front early. You're going to be able to see what's going on and head off some of that stuff, but you're also going to have potentially fewer post-occupancy problems. Again, you're going to catch some of those things with access, serviceability, system integration with other things, right? But also collaboration with commissioning teams is going to help you ensure it's all installed right. Testing is done, documenting where that stuff is, what is that stuff, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. But also it can help increase that turnover readiness, that faster turnover readiness, so you get more information quicker when you take occupancy of that building. But it's also going to help ensure long-term performance of the stuff in your building, right? And by that, I mean, what if you can't service the equipment because you don't even know where all that stuff is, and you don't do proper service on that thing for 6 months because you're waiting on the closeout package and you don't know exactly where stuff is? It may show up on a drawing, but we all know that I call them nearly builds instead of as builds. Just because it says it's on a drawing that it's in this room doesn't mean it's not in the hallway or down the hallway, or maybe something got reconfigured, right? I see it all the time. And oftentimes I hear people that'll say, you know what, we found 20 mistakes that we didn't, it says the valve's here, but it's actually down the hallway a little bit. It's all those little things that add up. Well, in an emergency, you don't have time to be hunting for that stuff. Pipes burst, you have equipment failures, you get hot cold calls nonstop. The longer it takes you to find that stuff, the more it impacts occupants, but it also can really impact your response times. So the strategic planning involvement means facilities involvement in early planning can reduce some of those potential change orders during construction as well. And also that collaboration with design teams, on average, according to IFMAS, can save $1.3 million on an average large project. But it also will help you with that long-term planning to ensure infrastructure alignment with your overall business goals. So designing for maintenance efficiency, and I love this slide, okay, because this is a perfect example of what I was talking about of not sometimes design construction and there's a gap in understanding, okay, I'm going to build it this way, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be the one that maintains it. Somebody else is, right? Those two photos on the right-hand side are perfect examples of that, okay? I'm not a big guy, right? And they have to maintain that piece of equipment that's on that first picture up in the upper right-hand corner. They have to crawl on their belly to get in there because there's a beam above, a beam below. They have to crawl up there and try to access that. There's water valves up in there too, right? That big guy that you see at the bottom down there, he couldn't fit. So this is a perfect example of why they're going to have to cut a hole in one of those sidewalls there so that he can access it. That's not efficient, but that immediately jumped out at him when he saw this thing. When he was looking at the drawings, he was like, oh my goodness. And keep in mind, he wasn't brought in during design phase. This is a problem. It would have jumped right out at him and he could have said, whoa, 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 wait a minute. I got to service this thing. How do I get up there? Right? The second picture at the bottom down there is an example of what I was talking about. That copper pipe that you see just below that flag that's hanging down there, or just above that flag that you see hanging down there. They have to reroute that line because you can't open the service door on that unit. It's right up against it. You physically cannot open the door to operate and to work on that piece of equipment. So that's already got to be moved. Again, that's another one where it jumps right out at him. He's like, wait a minute, how am I supposed to service this doggone thing? There's a line here. It has to be changed after the fact. More money, more time, right? So retrofitting poor design can cost 3 times more than proactive layout. If you could have caught that in advance, that line would have never been there. But also smart access planning reduces service time by 30%. Early detection of some of these design flaws can save you hundreds on hourly annual costs, okay? So designing for maintenance, this is another example of that. Just for reference, that's me on that ladder, okay? So look what I had to do here, okay? Do you think this was designed for facilities? You have to put a ladder on the floor and then put a ladder on the desk to climb up there, okay? To find that one unit that's up there. Nothing's laid out. No, it wasn't where it said it was on the drawings, okay? But that's how they have to service that piece of equipment, right? Again, little things like this take a tremendous amount of time when your team is trying to service this piece of equipment or do a PM on this piece of equipment. And half that battle is they're trying to find the thing, right? So again, if they would have moved this thing to the next tile over, they would have been able to access it. Again, it's all part of that collaborative process during design. But project planning for design also can help prevent future issues through that proactive planning. So again, an example is that proper filter access for that service door, or you know what, I can't really get at that. If you look in that photo in the bottom right hand corner, they have to crawl up over all that stuff to try and get there because all the other ceiling tiles that they have go right through that. They've got lights hanging down from them. That one tile that he's got his head stuck up through is the only one that he can go up through to get access to that. I was on site at one of our clients and we were mapping out some stuff. And there was one where we had to go into a ladies' room, pop a ceiling tile, and you had to pop the other tile next to it. You had to put an 8-foot ladder up through this tile, climb up there and step over because someone built a landing up there that no one knew about. And there were 4 HVAC units up there. 4. No one knew they were there. That's the only access point. This is the problem. It's time. It's also the hunt, trying to find all that stuff. So again, the before and after is really this. It's think about how you can help prevent some of these whammies that are going to come up, some of these things that are going to come up and bite you later on. You want to have a proactive designing for maintenance plan. And the little things that can get overlooked, you can help catch some of those things. So real world impact of inaccurate or missing information is difficulty finding stuff, trying to track down the stuff when you need it, meaning HVAC units, all the mechanicals, all the pumps, all the water heaters, all of that stuff will also shutoffs. Where is all that stuff? You know, larger the building, more stuff there typically is. If you're in healthcare, it can be even compounded because you got med gas and other unique things that are in a healthcare environment. The challenge is stuff is all over the place, and it can really hinder your team's availability to be able to respond fast, to be able to respond when it counts. And in emergencies, every second counts. I oftentimes refer to water is not our friend. Okay. I say water finds a way. The longer water runs, it's like a gas pump. The more money it costs you. So my goal is to shut that thing off as fast as I can. Well, I can't do that if I don't know where all the isolations are. I can't do that if I'm tracing lines, trying to find stuff. Okay. I should be able to go right to my phone, pull it out of my pocket, just like a guy up there on his iPad who's on that ladder in that photo. Open it up, document where it is. And if I don't know where it is, I should be able to find it on a plan, on my iPad, on my phone, and go right there. Not have to dig, not have to go back to a plan room, not have to sit in front of a computer. No, wherever I am, I should have access to this stuff. The problem is in design construction, that's not what you typically get as a deliverable. What happens is you're getting a PDF of something, or maybe you're getting some CAD files, and it comes in piecemeal. I'm working trying to figure out where all this stuff is. I'm getting it late. I'm operating the building for months and months and months. My team is trying to track down stuff. I'm trying to even establish a PM program for stuff. The challenge is I don't know where anything is, and my team doesn't either. That's what the typical deliverable is at the end of a project. There's a long delay before I even start to get some of that stuff. What I'm talking about here is no more. There's a better way. And the better way is map that stuff while it's open. Okay. So you can't manage what you can't find. In construction and facilities maintenance, missing building data isn't just an inconvenience. It's a liability. Okay. If your team can't respond when something goes sideways, that is risk. That is a giant liability to your organization. Okay. And there are ways that you can mitigate that. And what it starts with is proactive planning for your closeouts, proactive planning for the closeouts. You got to have everything upfront through the entire construction process so that your team hits the ground running. Now, the impacts of delayed closeouts, okay, 6 to 12 months is lost warranty opportunities, right? You don't catch something, you don't get the warranty information. So who do I even report it to? All right. You can miss out on some of those things that you might be able to get covered for free. So it also helps you, or it hinders you and creates what we call reactive maintenance spikes. You're reacting because you don't have a choice. You don't know where stuff is. You can't perform scheduled PMs or even identify where that stuff is because you don't know where it is. Okay. It leads to more breakdowns, right? Also can help or can create some what I call incorrect repairs. Technicians can't perform those PMs on unidentified assets because again, it's some more of those challenges with not knowing where this stuff is. Higher labor costs, again, time spent, time. Reduce team morale, they get frustrated. They're so frustrated. I hear this over and over from field teams. I can't find stuff to do my job. But also creates a deferred maintenance backlog, right? I'm deferring some of that maintenance because I don't know where this stuff is. So I can't even create a PM on this stuff. Again, it's a snowball. The other challenge is impacts of not including mapped facilities assets at turnover. Again, it's that response time. You hear me say that over and over again. Can't respond fast. It also can really create some safety and compliance issues, especially in the healthcare side or any kind of governed or regulated environments. It can really hinder some of that. All right. Maintenance efficiency, again, time, lost hours, trying to find stuff, can't do repairs, slows down productivity, right? Knowledge transfer too. Think about it. I have no way to document the stuff that I do find. So think about that. It's not just, again, it's a new building. So you don't have a lot of institutional knowledge, if any. So the knowledge transfer means I find something, I have no way of documenting it. I have no plans to even put it on. No. The problem is then it becomes that one person or those two people. That's their institutional knowledge, even on a new building. So there's no way to document stuff they find as they find it. Okay. But also vendor coordination. I talked to a lot of orgs that they're working with vendors on HVAC, or maybe they've got a third party that comes in and does other systems, other inspections. Again, having access to all of that information, where is it, what is going to help with that vendor coordination as well. But also data integrity. CMMS systems often get populated with incomplete or inaccurate data, right? Now you can have a field verified, what's really out in the field, captured while the grid is open and everything's installed. And let's take a look at what that can look like. But more importantly, here's the overall problem. I call this pose that the guy's in the skull hold. He's holding his head because he's so frustrated. He's trying to track stuff down. He's getting hot, cold calls. He had a water leak. That's a day in the life in facilities. Just because it's a new building doesn't mean that stuff doesn't break. It also doesn't mean that things are functioning correctly. So the when you inherit a building, they can't safely and efficiently maintain it. It's frustrating. But also, operations are reactive instead of proactive. That institutional knowledge is not fully captured even after that documentation arrives. It traditionally, the stuff that we do find, I'm not transferring that 6 months from now or 12 months from now when I do finally get the documentation, because I don't have time. I'm running around like crazy. Also, the result is higher risk, higher cost, and the weaker start for your building's life cycle, right? You're not hitting the ground running proactively. You're operating blind for too long. So here's another true story. Brand new building. Custodian clipped a sprinkler at 2:17 p.m. Water erupted. All right, it's going all over the place. Staff couldn't find the shutoff. Brand new building. They were waiting on the closeouts. 45 minutes to stop it, right? 2 of the valves that they turned failed. Brand new building, right? 2 floors flooded. But here's the compounded problem. A pipe burst downstream and ceiling tiles clapped onto the nurse's station. Patients had to be relocated, rooms closed for 2 weeks. Brand new building, right? What was the damage? Okay, water damage, 50, 75. These are estimates because they still don't know. They're estimating these are what the costs are. Relocating and lost revenue, 40 to 50 grand. Okay, additional repairs to the floor below, right? It's not just the floor it happened on, the floor below, 150,000 plus. That's what happens when you can't respond because you don't know where anything is. That's how fast things can snowball on a brand new building. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's a challenge, all right? But the problem is it doesn't have to be this way. So failing to include all this mapped assets and timely closeout documentation can really undermine a benefit of commissioning and the benefit of a new building for that matter. It creates 6 to 12 month blind spots that erodes efficiency, safety, and trust in both construction and facilities team. It's a problem, okay? But mapped equipment should be done. You should do this process of mapping equipment out when the grid is open, okay? Cannot stress that enough. If you wait till the grid is closed, you're going to be popping tiles all over the place trying to figure out what's where. Map this stuff while the grid's open. Map it on your phone. Map it on your iPad so that you have full access. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Everybody has access to it. All the systems, all the shutoffs, they're all visible when that ceiling grid is open. And if you wait till the end, like I said, now it's a guessing game. Now it's that hunt that I was talking about earlier. But now it's also accurate data, mapped exactly where it is, not just where it is on a plan where it's showing on a mechanical drawing or a plumbing drawing. No, it's actually where it is on a floor plan with photos. Can even have video. Can even say what areas it serves. But it also is going to be no need for removing those ceiling tiles down the road, taking all that time and revisiting all those areas later. But this supports your turnover when you get the project commissioning done and you get that handoff at the end of that project. They give you the keys, you got it, and you're hitting the ground running right out of the gates. So the risk of waiting until after the completion is, remember I said, now I got to pop these tiles, try and figure out where it is. So now I'm trying to figure out, I'm popping all these tiles, trying to find all that hidden stuff. It can cause safety delays. Missing shutoffs info can really mitigate that emergency response or be a detriment to your emergency response. It also can create some of those higher costs, extra labor trying to find that, disruptions, okay? You also have inaccurate maps lead to maintenance errors, okay? Remember, I call them nearly builds because I guarantee you're going to find stuff that's not where it says it was, okay? And that's just what happens. That's construction. The challenge is you're able to document all of that stuff real time, okay? Also can help with some of those, mitigate some of those compliant risks with that missing data. So access to all the shutoffs and equipment locations in seconds. What that looks like is this right here. All of your assets mapped out, every one of them. By what type is it? What is it? Also linking all of that information that you get in that commissioning report. Think about that. I can see all the testing that was done, link it directly to the equipment record. I can have the manuals, the warranty, all of that information, make, model, serial number, but documented with photographs showing where is it, what is it, okay? Also, link any additional supporting stuff down the road. Link a video to, I found on YouTube how to replace a thermostat. Put that stuff in here as your team finds it. So again, this is not a static thing. This gives you the ability to change things, add stuff, put in filter sizes, put in belt sizes, all of that stuff, all of the stuff that is for each individual unit captured. So your team has this day one when they hit the ground running. You take occupancy of the building, your team knows where everything is. I worked with a hospital client that actually we went in and mapped out what I'm showing you here, that we mapped out a whole bunch of stuff for them. And they even took all of their drinking fountains and put in all the filters, took photos of the filter, what filter size they even need on all the fountains. They did everything for all of their, they put in the filter sizes, all of that for every HVAC unit before they took occupancy. Matter of fact, they even put in links to where they order their stuff on Granger, right? Think about that. Now you take occupancy of the building. This is what you get. Day one, all of your team, every person on your team has access to all of that information the day you get the keys. That's what we're talking about here. So picture that in any of your new construction projects, right? This is your deliverable too. You get this, and that way your team hits the ground running. So map shutoffs, the same thing. All the shutoffs, gas, water, power, med gas, all of it. Your panels, your switch gears, your ATSs, all your transformers, all of those are mapped out with where is it, what is it, and every technician has access to it on their phone, in the field, wherever they are. They'll go from building to building. They can see every building, all the information. But on new buildings, they have this day one. And all of that is here organized so that they can easily find it. And it's all searchable. I'm looking for a panel. I can type in the panel name if I've got a sticker, and I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second. And I can find that panel. But all of the stuff for the building is all here immediately. All your MEP drawings, all of your as-builts are in here. Okay. All of your renovations you do down the road are also included in here. Every renovation would be mapped out so you can see every renovation. But here's the other thing. I'm always about time. When seconds count, right? 2 o'clock in the morning, a pipe burst. You're not doing the photo on the left and popping ceiling tiles trying to find stuff. You can have every single one of your lines mapped out, and you can even put in details of what it is. Where is it? What is it? What does it serve? Before you take occupancy of the building. That's what you can do, okay? But here's an example of how quickly that can happen. A hospital lost power. ORs, 30 minutes before the first surgeries, they lost power. The nurse called the facilities, and the new guy, third shift, answers the phone. He's been on the job for 4 days. All he asked was the nurse, he said, what's the panel name that's on that little sticker? Well, it's panel 1NLB. He searches on his tablet, finds that. If you look at the photo at the bottom in the center there, it shows that one panel. He goes directly to that panel, hits a breaker, power's back on. Seconds, not hours, not minutes, seconds. That's what you can do with what I'm talking about here. You have access to every panel. This building just opened. You're not going to know where every panel is. I hear this all the time, and I see this all the time. Panels are tucked behind a door. Maybe there's a little closet that's off of the mechanical room that's in the back corner. Stuff gets hidden all over. They tuck stuff away all the time. Same thing with mechanical equipment, right? I see VFDs that are tucked away in a corner. I'll see pumps that are crammed into this certain area. Again, stuff's all over the place, as not even to mention all the stuff that's in the grid. Okay. But if I can see all those chilled water supply and returns, I can see all those hot water supply and returns. I can see my potable water. I can see the stuff that's coming into the building, all my gas lines. That's what you're talking about here. And you have access to that day one. So team members hit the ground running and have access to all of that new building information day one. You're not waiting, folks. You got to stop waiting, because what happens is you're setting yourself up for failure. And I hate to see this because the challenge is I want to set my team up for success. I don't want them starting in this new building frustrated. I don't want them having to dig or potentially even not even their fault. They damage something because they don't have the specs on that piece of equipment. So they're working on it, or they try and find stuff and they rip open a wall trying to get at it. No, come on. You can head off some of that stuff. And now your team is being proactive with your maintenance approach. So eliminating that search, having to pop all those ceiling tiles, trying to find stuff is gone. You have all that stuff. You captured it while the grid is open. Your team can now access where is it, what is it, and go right to it to mitigate some of that time and also mitigate any potential damage if something goes sideways in your building. So you're going to help eliminate some of those hidden costs for your team. Time loss. Technicians spend 30 to 40% of their time locating information on equipment. Deferred maintenance is, again, it's challenged with documented systems. It can also impact your regulatory non-compliant or to keep you in compliance because you're trying to track stuff down. How are you supposed to be in compliance if you don't even know it exists? Or where is it? What is it? So also helps you leverage asset mapping for proactive maintenance moving forward. You have remote access. You can see all the stuff floor to floor to floor, building to building to building, or from home or from your car. Wherever you are, you can respond live. So 2 days after you get the keys to the building, you get a phone call, something's going sideways, you're on your drive home and you're 30 minutes from the office, you can pull over, you can pull your phone out of your pocket and you can see everything in your building from your phone. Do a screen capture, text message it to the person who's standing there, whether it's security, maybe it's a custodian, whoever's there in the building, you can send them the information. The other thing is, as your team finds stuff or as they change stuff all the time, right? Even on new buildings, you're going to tweak things. You're going to do different things to make your lives easier. You can update that stuff live, hit save, and everybody sees it. It's real-time data. Somebody changes something, they hit save, everybody sees it, but it's going to help you improve that efficiency, even on a new build. It's going to reduce the amount of time spent searching for stuff. And especially when it comes to assets, and that includes mechanicals and also your shutoffs. Okay. It's a proactive plan moving forward too. As you find stuff, document it. As you change stuff, document it. It's part of your new internal SOP. If you see it, document it. Right. But now you're putting a tool in their hands. And mind you, folks, a tool is their phone. A tool is their iPad. It's not just having to go back to a desktop. I was talking to somebody the other day and they said, yeah, we got one person who's charged with updating everything. I said, oh, that's great. How long have they been there? 30 years. That's great. Yeah. I said, yeah, that's great. And he said, but they just gave their notice. One person, single point of failure. Your entire team should be able to update stuff live, but most importantly, should be easy. Okay. I jokingly say this, that, even the oldest guys on your team, they know how to play Angry Birds. Okay. They're on their team. They're on their phone. They're messing around and stuff. They're tech savvy too. Don't be fooled. Right. Has to be tools that are easy. So even that guy or gal can use it. Simple, fast. Everybody can access it. Everybody can make changes. Everybody can document it live while they're standing in front of the device. So I call this from the desk bound to mobile. If they have to go back to a desk to do an update on something or try and track down a photo on their desktop that they emailed themselves, come on, right? The new way is I'm standing in front of the unit, pull my phone out of my pocket, pull my iPad off my cart, and I take a picture of it, map out where is it, what is it. I can even record a video in my words saying, hey, this one's a pain in the behind. This is the way you have to manage this thing. Hit save. Everybody even sees that video. All of it's live. Everybody can access that information real time. So I jokingly show this. Okay. Ceiling grid off to the left, not one label. No, not even a dot. The off to the right, I go down hallways all the time on new construction. I'm looking up and I see red dots, blue dots, yellow dots. I'm seeing green dots. Okay. Orange dots. What is that? I don't know. Have you ever popped that grid? No. Okay. Is that chill water? Is that hot water? I'm assuming hot and cold. but is it supply return? Is it one valve? What does it serve? That red and that blue dot mean nothing to me, right? In an emergency, those dots are, 10 feet in the air. Am I even going to see them? I oftentimes walk around new construction. I'm looking up and I see guys where the grid's in and they're doing this and they're looking. They got their flashlight out because the lights aren't even on in that area. They're looking up and they miss those dots. That dot tells me nothing. Okay. And especially if I go into a grid like off to the left there and there's dots all over the place. I have no idea what that is. What I showed you earlier, now you do. Your entire team does. Let alone, I see a red and blue dot up on that ceiling grid. What tile do I pop? I got a 1 in 4 shot. Okay. No, you can see where everything is and what's in the grid before you even grab the ladder. That's what you're talking about, or we're talking about here. So the key benefits of this for facilities teams are improved productivity. You hit the ground running day one. It's also helping mitigate some of those risks. Okay. You can respond faster. You can access all of that information. The knowledge capture is as your team finds stuff, being able to update stuff as they find stuff live. Okay. This is going to help you with really impacting your business continuity. Keeps mitigating or helps to mitigate some of that downtime. It also is going to cut back on some of that hunt that your team is looking for stuff, trying to find all of that stuff. All of it is in their hand, in their pocket. It's their phone, it's their tablet, live. And all of the information you get from that commissioning report is also tied right back to it. Okay. It's not just a binder that's tucked on a shelf somewhere. No, you can link all of that commissioning information directly to the equipment that they tested. So you can see all of it, all the specs, all of the exploded parts list, all of it tied back to every single part of your asset. In this case, your asset is the building, a new building with all the interior assets inside of it. Everything's live. Everybody has access. So set your team up for success. Invest in a centralized location where all that stuff lives so you get it and you hit the ground running day one. Close that loop in construction maintenance, okay, and maintenance. Make sure that you have this clean pass off so that you hit the ground running day one after you get the keys. You know where you have full visibility to where everything is in the building. It also helps you with training that new staff. Everybody in the new building is new. Okay. You may have it's not about age. Everybody's new to a new building. So you get everybody on the same page day one. Okay. And it makes it part of your standard workflow that everybody knows where everything is and they can also document it. But the most important thing is access 24/7. You have access no matter where you are, no matter if you're at home, on a roof, wherever the heck you are, you have access to it. Day one, you hit the ground running with your teams. So let's open it up to some questions.
Well, first off, David, thank you so much for this informative presentation. I learned a lot, and I have actually a few questions for you after this presentation. But for now, we will get to our audience questions. Thank you so much to everyone for sending in some questions. Okay, so to get started here, who does all this mapping? Someone wants to know.
Well, what I showed is our team. We physically go out. I've done this at buildings literally nationwide, and where we come in, we map out the equipment, we map out the shutoffs. And like I said, the best time to do it is when the grid's open. If you wait until the grid's closed up, it's a crapshoot, or it's just a huge amount of time trying to document what's where. Oftentimes stuff gets missed as well. But our team actually goes out and it's amazing when you're out there and you look up and it's hard to miss it. It's all there. And in many cases, there's, the ribbons are hanging down from where all these valves are already too. Even if they don't have the label on them yet, they still show what they are. Most of them will say chill water supply return or hot water supply return or, condensate or whatever the case may be. We capture all of that, not just the stuff in the grid, but it's also in the mechanical spaces when it's already installed. It may not be even fully tested yet, but it's bolted down. That's the time to do this stuff. And we go in often and map all that stuff out. Our teams are traveling around the country doing this all the time.
That's awesome. Another
Setting your team
question.
up for success, if that makes sense, because at the end of the day, your team doesn't have time.
No, no, everybody could use more time nowadays.
Yeah.
Um, Now, another question we have here is, or I guess let me see, I have a couple of people asking, what is that software you were showing for the shutoffs and equipment locations? Um,
Yeah, that's our software. We're ARC Facilities. Reach out to me. My contact information is there. I'm happy to show it to you and discuss what you're running into. We use our software. We built it from scratch, and it's just a tool that is a mobile app that everybody can access this stuff.
Very cool. Now, I
Yeah.
have a question here on, there was a checklist in the beginning. Where can we obtain that checklist?
Yeah, we can send out the checklist. Just send me an email, and we're happy to send that checklist out to you. Now, that checklist is one that I got from somebody. I wiped away all their logo and all that stuff, but that may vary from commissioning agent to commissioning agent or firm to firm. So just check it against and make sure that that includes what you need.
Mhm. Perfect. Thank you, David. Now, it looks like we have a comment here. We had a new project just handed over and we didn't get anything like this. Now we are popping tiles, trying to locate where stuff is, and we have already identified several things that are not where the drawings say they are.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Sorry for your luck. But call me. Happy to help and see what we can do to help mitigate some of that too, because we've got a bunch of our clients too that we go in on existing buildings and do the exact same thing for existing buildings, not just new buildings. We'll do it for existing buildings as well.
Mhm. Perfect. And it looks like we have time for about one or two more questions. How long does it take to do this mapping?
Yeah, it depends on the space. Essentially, and again, it depends on a new building or an older building, existing building. New buildings, it's a lot easier because again, everything's open. Traditionally, we're not having to schedule around if you're in like a healthcare setting. We don't have to schedule around patients because that's
Mm,
what I'm saying too. It's not just about when the grid's open and it's under construction. There's typically no tenants and no patients in those spaces either. So you don't have to worry about closing down a section of the building to access that stuff or getting a HEPA cart and going up there and popping the ceiling tile. You don't have to worry about any of that. The grid's usually open because if you do it later on, I've done it where our team's gone out and we've mapped out existing hospital space where the surgeries are going till 6, 7 o'clock at night. So we'll come in at midnight and start mapping
mm,
out with third shift while no one's there. So again, it's just a scheduling thing, but I think the best time to do it obviously is it really comes down to doing it in advance of taking occupancy.
Perfect. And
Yep.
for our last question here, David, how do you ensure that you get the right facility staff on the team early? What questions do you ask them to get the answers you need?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yes, of course. How do you ensure you get the right facility staff? It actually says on the CX team early. What questions do you ask them to get the answers you need?
Yeah, when you're talking about, I'm assuming they're talking about facilities maintenance staff.
Hmm.
So that really depends on the type of building. You're going to have, like in healthcare, you're going to have people that are specialized in certain things like med gas. Okay, for
Mm,
instance, you're not going to see med gas in a school traditionally. You got to figure out what is there are standards that are set up by IFMA. ASHI has standards too, where it talks about head count versus square footage, and you can really lean in on them to get some of that. Some of the questions I would ask is obviously experience with those systems, specifically the systems that are being installed at your new place, not just generic systems. Be very specific on the systems that are being installed at your site because it doesn't do you any good if say, hey, do you have any experience with a Swiss log if you don't have a Swiss log in your system, in your new building. You want to make sure that they're familiar with these particular systems. Same thing with HVAC. If you've got your entire new building is all trained, you got somebody you're interviewing and they only know Carrier, you might want to lean toward somebody who knows Train.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, David, I said that we had the last question, but I'm going to sneak in one more if that's okay.
No problem.
We are in planning phase right now on a tower, and we haven't finalized the agreements yet. Can this be written into the scope of our project?
100%. Yeah.
Mhm.
What matter of fact, I'd recommend that. Call me. I'm happy to have that conversation. My cell phone's on there. Call me, text me, email me. And again, I want to uncover what you're going through, what your expectation is, and I would like to really hear more about the building. And it may not even be something we can help with. I want to make sure that I can point you in the right direction.
Perfect. Well, David, it looks like we're almost out of time, but I think we can maybe squeeze in this one last question.
You got it.
Um, can the program include the ability to include more inventory control, such as serial numbers?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So it's interesting you brought that up because serial numbers, make model serial numbers on the equipment and assets, all the assets is a big deal, especially right out of the gates. Traditionally, what I'm seeing when you get an asset inventory at the closeout phase, there's a lot of holes. You'll see pieces and parts. That's what we're capturing when we're in the field. So we're mapping out not just where is it, it's what is it and all the details associated with it. So make, model, serial number, warranty information, what was the install date. You can capture and add all of that information in right out of the gates because again, the install date isn't necessarily lining up with some of the deliverables, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. Definitely makes sense. Well, David, now it looks like for real we are out of time. We have several questions we weren't, able to get to, but the ARC facilities team will reach out individually with answers to your questions. Again, David, thank you so much for this informative presentation, and of course to ARC facilities for sponsoring this webinar. And I have to thank our audience for attending today. A recording from today's session will be made available on our magazine's website, facilityexecutive.com, and ARC Facilities will be sending out a follow-up email with this recording within the next 2 business days. So I want to thank everyone so much for joining us, and I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon.